Hey everyone, welcome to the movie guys. I'm Mike, and welcome to my review of what very well might be the final installment in Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible saga, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
This can't all be true.
Every word.
CIA Black Vault break-in.
Am I reading this correctly? The Kremlin bombing?
In fairness, the bomb was actually meant to kill him.
He gassed a security briefing.
That was just 2 months ago.
This explains the handcuffs. It's still not clear why he's here.
Boy, where do I start with this movie, this franchise, I should say? I have been a lover of this franchise for close to 30 years. I can remember when I was, I want to say 8 or 9 years old when I first saw the first Mission Impossible. I know that's from like 96. I was born in 89. I probably saw it when I was about 98-ish, we'll say. So we'll say I saw it at about 9 years old. And it's a movie that stuck with me for years. And I remember the twists and turns and the beginning being so intense and twisty, curvy, twisty turvy with Tom Cruise's team all being wiped out. John Voight, who was a big actor, being wiped out in the first half hour was quite a shock. And just seeing where that film was going to go from beginning to end, and I was shocked by the third act. I won't give away what that is because if you haven't seen it, well, then you probably shouldn't be watching this review. But if you haven't seen it, I don't want to give it away. But The Final Reckoning. It has now been close to, I think, 2 years since Dead Reckoning Part 1. This was supposed to be Dead Reckoning Part 2. But due to the fact that the film Dead Reckoning Part 1 had underperformed and Oppenheimer and Barbie came out, Barbenheimer, it kind of slowed down the box office for Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Paramount and Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise all thought they needed to pivot the plan a little bit, change the title from Dead Reckoning Part 1 to and Part 2 to it being now The Final Reckoning. It was always kind of a decision that puzzled me. I don't really think a title change really makes a big difference. But far be it from me. I don't make those decisions. So I liked Dead Reckoning Part 1. I know that Dead Reckoning Part 1 got a lot of flack, but I personally enjoyed it. Coming off the high of Fallout, I guess you could say it wasn't quite as good as Fallout. But Dead Reckoning Part 1 I thought was an interesting story. It went with the AI storyline. It felt intriguing. It felt new. It felt fresh. Something that the franchise has always been good at doing. But this felt like a really original idea to go down this path. And I found Dead Reckoning Part 1 to be an interesting way of going with the franchise, but a realistic approach because we've been heading towards this AI civilization with the rise of AI the last 5 years or so. And now with The Final Reckoning coming out now, AI really has gotten stronger even since Dead Reckoning Part 1 came out. So this really, I think, is the perfect film to be releasing at this time to really show what the threats of AI really can and could be.
Smart people on every side are close to panicking.
What exactly is your plan?
Like I said in my instant reaction, it's going to be a fairly lengthy review because there's a lot to cover with this film. It was hard for me to even really pinpoint where I wanted to start with this because Dead Reckoning Part 1 has remained very fresh in my mind. Right before I saw The Final Reckoning, I watched Mission Impossible 1, watched Mission Impossible 3 about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and then Dead Reckoning I've seen bits and pieces of it throughout the last year or so. I've even watched it a couple times through, so everything remained very fresh in my mind, and I specifically watched 1 and 3 because I heard in all the early reviews that 1 and 3 were very important for The Final Reckoning. There's a lot of things from 1 and 3 that circle back into this. So I did that. So First off, a lot of the critics have criticized this film's first act for being kind of messy and convoluted and jumbled and a little bit of a mess. I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly. Yes, the first hour of this film definitely feels like a different Mission Impossible film that we've gotten before. Right off the bat, just looking at the cinematography and the style and the flow of the story, it feels a little bit out of the usual Mission Impossible comfort zone. But I think it's a necessary thing to do, just because each film's had its own visual style. Even though Christopher McQuarrie, this is his fourth Mission Impossible film. The great thing about him is that the first four missions all had a different director, and each of them came with a different style. So when McQuarrie came on and did Rogue Nation and then did Fallout, Rogue Nation to Fallout, the cinematography and the visual style was drastically different. So even going from Dead Reckoning to Fallout felt a little different. The Final Reckoning feels like it was going for more of a Fallout type cinematography, but darker. And with this being a darker story and the world kind of being in a messy place, it felt very suitable that the cinematography for this one felt like the darkest of the series. It really did. I mean, the film still has humor. Mission Impossibles have always had humor, and some people say this film lacked humor. I laughed at a few scenes. The theater I was in, I saw the film twice. There were people laughing in that. So I think the film had just the right amount of laughs that kind of harken back to the previous installments. But considering the overall story of this, you don't really want to go too far with that. In previous installments, yes, there were threats that were dangerous to the world, but this film has the biggest threat to the world. And yes, you could say, oh, bigger than Fallout with the nuclear missiles. It is, because at the end of the day, Fallout would have been certain cities that would have been blown up. This has an impact on the entire planet and all of humanity. So, to me, the darker feel in this film already is the right way to go. And the first hour we deal with a lot of flashbacks, and when I first saw it the first time, I thought maybe there was a few too many. But then on the second watch, they seem to flow very nicely. We get the nice flashback montage with Ethan looking back at his previous missions while Angela Bassett's president is asking for his help to turn over the key and to work with them to get the entity. I thought that was a beautiful touch. If this is in fact the final movie, I thought that was the best way to start this out, with like a little bit of a montage and honoring the previous 7 films, especially seeing scenes of the first film quite a bit in that montage, and just seeing how young Tom Cruise was, and then looking at him now almost 30 years later. It's amazing what age does to us, and seeing him age throughout the franchise really is it's a good way to see really how age really works in a 30-year period, and how much we really do get miles on us in a way. The only thing too is that in that first 20 minutes or so before we get the opening Mission Impossible credits with all the people in the movie and getting the flashes like we always get with every film, there was a lot that happened in a very small amount of time. Once Ethan is grabbed by Gabriel and him and Grace are tied up with nowhere to go, we do get the explanation as to what the rabbit's foot was from Mission Impossible 3. Which I loved that. I like being able to watch Mission 3 now, knowing what that rabbit's foot that the team is chasing and what Davian really wants and what repercussions it's going to have later. It really changes the impact on watching Mission 3, especially when he gets the rabbit's foot at the end of Mission 3 and gives it to the head of the IMF, Brassel, and he asks what it is, and we don't know, and it is the beginning of the entity. Yeah, I'm going to spoil that part at least, because it's crucial that thing in Mission 3 was the beginning of the entity, and that part of what Ethan did to save the world the first time because he wanted to save Julia ended up having repercussions on the world X amount of years later. I thought that was a really creative way of tying in a past movie's MacGuffin and turning it into something very important and very crucial to the whole entire franchise as a whole. But the way it jumbles around in that first 20 minutes is the editing feels a little frantic at times and a little bit jumbled. But I was able to follow it. I get what they were going for, and I don't think in any way it hurts what's going on. It probably just could have been edited a little bit smoother in the first 20 minutes than what it was. But after that, we get some great scenes with Ethan and Benji and Luther. Still a little confused as to the sickness that Luther has, that he's required to be in a room with a bed and oxygen, stuff like that. I wish they would have explained that more. I kind of just went into it assuming that, he's getting sicker because he's getting older. I don't think it's anything that had happened to him. It's just maybe age or sickness caught up to him. This is 2 months later, so who knows? I didn't find it to be an important part that was missing. It would have been nice to have it, but I like the moments there, finding out about the poison pill to the entity and what their overall plan is to do with the poison pill. We get some really good scenes with Ethan inside the entity machine, and the entity's filling his head full of what might happen or what's going to happen to the world. I guess my only gripe or issue with that would be there were times during the entity sequence where it felt a little too sci-fi-ish, like a little bit. It didn't feel like Mission Impossible, just maybe in that moment. I liked the scene, but it did feel a little different and a little weird. But I get why it's there, and I get the piece of it, and it's still a really good scene overall. So we get that scene, and then we jump ahead as the movie goes on, finding out about how Ethan needs to get the Sevastopol submarine and what his plan to get there is, separating the team, and how they're going to have to go into the icy tundra to get the information as to where the Sevastopol is. We get a lot of exposition. We do, and a lot of the reviews will tell you there's a lot of exposition, and there's too much of it. I am one of those people where I'd rather have too much exposition and too much plot than to not have enough. And one thing this movie does right is I don't walk out of it feeling like I didn't get enough information or feeling like I was shortchanged on something. Yes, is there too much information? And yes, do we have a tendency to sometimes repeat at times throughout the film? Yes. But I'm not going to knock it for that, because the way it's done doesn't feel like we're on repeat mode. It feels as though it's story progression. It feels like it's doing just the right amount to fill in the audience. Some people say that this movie handholds the audience, acting like they didn't see the previous films. That's bullshit. That's total bullshit. The movie does a very good job of honoring the fans, honoring the legacy. If you didn't see Dead Reckoning Part 1, I guess technically you wouldn't have to, because we get enough here where you could see the movie on its own and it could stand by itself. But I would recommend you do see Dead Reckoning Part 1 because it makes for a much better watch and makes it a lot more easier to understand. But we get a lot of dialogue, a lot of exposition. But I like the scenes that we get between Angela Bassett, the president, and Ethan. I like the scenes that we get of him on the submarine with the captain, which is played by none other than our guy from Severance. If you've seen the trailers, you know who I'm talking about. I liked his character. For a guy that probably didn't have a whole lot to do in the script, he makes the character unique and special, and you remember who he is. He makes every line of his memorable and special. And I like those scenes in the submarine with him and the crew. So there's a lot in this movie to keep you entertained from set piece to set piece to set piece. And it all culminates in one of my favorite sequences of the entire movie, and maybe one of my favorite sequences of the entire franchise.
Your team has been betrayed, Ethan. All your secrets compromised.
Everything you are, everything you've done has come to this.
And that is the Sevastopol submarine sequence. I loved this sequence. The fact that basically all of this is real blows my mind. The way it's shot, the music, and I want to give a shout out to the two new guys that did the score for this movie and replaced Lauren Balfe. I think the score was fantastic. Since I've seen the movie, I have been listening to the soundtrack quite a bit on Amazon Music, and I've enjoyed every piece. And the Sevastopol sequence of music is amazing. It's haunting. It's creepy. A much different piece of music we've ever gotten in any other Mission Impossible movie, and I freaking loved it. I thought when he was climbing down into the submarine trying to get down there, the music has like a it kind of almost sounds like the music from Revenge of the Sith when Anakin and Palpatine are talking at the opera house. It had very much that feel. It felt haunting. It felt creepy, and you felt like that you were with Ethan in that moment, gripping your seat. Like, can he hold his breath that long? Is something going to happen? Is he going to get back to the top? Is something in the submarine going to fall on him? You feel like that throughout the whole sequence, and there is no dialogue I think for a steady 6 or 7 minutes, but it's just haunting music. The sound effects in the sub, it just works so well. It's such a fantastic sequence. And I didn't get a chance to see the movie in IMAX, and I'm almost thinking about going a third time just so I can see these scenes in IMAX because I heard they're mind-blowing. I was already blown away in my Dolby theater seeing it, which, by the way, the Dolby theater experience was excellent. The sound in 7.1 was amazing. And my screens there are huge, too, so I don't feel like if I don't see it in IMAX I missed out because the screens in my Dolby theater are huge and massive, so I still saw it on a very big screen to begin with. But just an amazing sequence, and I applaud Tom Cruise between this sequence and the plane sequence, but just all the stuff he's done in the franchise, period. It's just been fantastic, and I respect the living hell out of Tom Cruise because he has made movies just a special thing to go to, and he feels so much pride in his work. You know, as a small-time filmmaker myself, I respect him so much, and I have taken so much of what I've learned from movie making and what I've applied to my movie making. A lot of it comes from him because I respect him so much, and there is just so much you can learn from him. And if you really are an aspiring filmmaker, really take the time to listen to Tom Cruise in his interviews and just talk about his love for the movies and his love for theater. It's intoxicating, and I just love it, and that's why I always love to support anything that Tom Cruise does because he just really is, I think, probably the greatest movie star we've got, and there's not another one out there like him, and I really appreciate everything he's done for this business. But as the movie goes along, we get great sequences that bridge up into the rest of the team being in like the icy tundra, where we run into a familiar face from Mission 1, William Donlow. If you don't know who William Donlow is, he was the CIA agent that was in the Black Vault in the first movie when Ethan was climbing down. He was the guy with the glasses that they gave the diuretic to give him diarrhea back and forth. And if you remember correctly, in Mission 1, Kittredge had wanted to send him to Alaska or the Great North to get him out of there. So I thought that was a beautiful touch. I thought this was the perfect character to bring back for this. And I loved his character in this. I loved the Donlow character. I thought they gave him so much good stuff to do. He had good lines, good story development. His arc from Mission 1 to this, I thought was a fantastic little arc. And the fact that he has a scene with Ethan where he thanks him for actually going into the Black Vault and changing his life, getting him transferred there where he met his wife, I thought was great. And it really felt like a very big full circle moment for the franchise, just in that one scene alone.
You gave him an aircraft carrier?
Getting to the final act, when we get into the Doomsday Bunker, we are treated to basically everybody being there at one time between Gabriel and his henchmen. Then we have Kittredge show up with... There's a little bit of a spoiler here, and I'm not going to spoil it, but one of the characters from Dead Reckoning Part 1, I forget his actual name in the movie, but he was the gray-haired guy. He was with the other guy. There's a big reveal about his character, and it harkens back to Mission 1 as well. I'm not going to give it away here because it's a big reveal, but he is with Kittredge at the end. So we have them, part of that team, Gabriel and everybody else hearkened or grouped in together, and it leads to a fantastic finale between Grace and the rest of the team trying to capture the entity in this flash drive, to Ethan having to run outside and go on this plane here. Yes, everything he did in that sequence is real, jumping from plane to plane, hanging from the plane that high in the air. God, Tom Cruise, I think you have a death wish, but again, like I said, I thank you for doing what you do, because you make movies genuinely special. We get this great sequence in the sky between him and Gabriel that culminates in one of the funniest, craziest, but really, really good death sequences, or a really good death sequence for one of the characters. I cracked up big time, and sort of the rest of the theater. So we get a moment there, and I'm left wondering in this moment: is Ethan gonna survive? Is he gonna survive? Because it goes back to when I saw Daniel Craig's No Time to Die back in, was it 2021, 2022? And I got so angry and so mad on how that whole movie went and that arc. And then to top it all off, I'm going to say it. If you haven't seen the movie by now, oh well. Or No Time to Die, oh well. The fact that Daniel Craig Bond dies. And it angers me, because if you were going to kill off his Bond, the Bond to do it in would have been in Spectre. Because No Time to Die felt like a movie that was filled with just making it for the sake of making it and didn't tie the whole thing together like Spectre did. And then they kill him off for, I think, a fairly weak reason. So all I kept thinking is when I walked out of the theater for No Time to Die, I went up to the Daniel Craig poster and I literally flipped at the bird and I said, F you movie on Twitter, and that was it. So I kept thinking to myself, okay, when I saw the trailer for The Final Reckoning, I was getting No Time to Die vibes. Like, it was starting to feel like that Ethan's going to die in this movie. And I kept thinking, oh my God, please don't let this be a No Time to Die. Please don't let it be a No Time to Die. Because that already ruined the Daniel Craig franchise for me. And all I kept saying was, please don't ruin the Mission Impossible franchise for me. I have rewatched the film so many times and I get so much enjoyment out of them. And if they would have killed Ethan at the end of this, I would have been so angry, so frustrated. And I probably would have taken my Mission Impossible 4K Steelbook collection, and I probably either would have sold it or gotten rid of it, because I would not have been able to watch another one again if they would have killed Ethan off. That might sound selfish of me, but to me, I don't think killing Ethan off in this franchise was ever going to be the answer. And this movie's message, going through it, you kind of understand why. And the last 5 minutes includes a voiceover that really defines Ethan Hunt and what his life is about and why he's here and why he needs to continue to be here. So I was so relieved and so happy, because this was not the right franchise to kill off the lead character. And thankfully they didn't. And I'm going to spoil that, because by now, even some spoiler-free reviews have said as much. So Ethan Hunt, lives at the end to live another day. And the ending is not entirely definitive. It can be an ending to the franchise, and I'd be completely satisfied if it is the end of the franchise. But they leave just enough of a cracked door open, just enough of it open to do a Mission 9. I hope they do a Mission 9. I love this franchise so much that I don't want to see it end. If it does end with this film, I'm completely satisfied. It's a good finishing chapter. And it really closes out with, I think, a really great 10 minutes. But there's enough there where they could do Mission 9. And there could be a compelling story for Mission 9. And I also see where they could spin this off with a new lead for Mission 9 and then include Ethan in like more of a John Voight head of the team type of way. Or maybe becoming head of the IMF like Brassel does in Mission 3. So, yeah, I mean, there's enough there where you have a lot to work with, but at the same time, you have an end of a franchise. So it's kind of good that they had their cake and they're eating it too, because we could have the franchise end here, but also continue it as well.
Our lives are the sum of our choices. This is your calling, your destiny. I have no regrets. Neither should you.
So my final thoughts. This is a great finishing chapter to Mission Impossible. Don't let some of the critics fool you. I don't think the first hour is a mess at all. I think the first hour does a great job of making us feel the entity's presence in the world, the impossible mission that the team has before them, and what they have to do to succeed. I think every scene that we get is important. I wouldn't cut anything out of this movie. I think every scene that we get is important. It's crucial to the plot, and I think it makes us fully invested in that third act the way we should be, because if you cut too much out of the first two acts, you lose a little bit of the character moments, the story, the pacing, and the overall consequences of what could happen if this team fails if you cut scenes out. So I think this movie runs at a very quick 2 hours and 50 minutes. It never feels its length. It moves very fast. And we get great performances from Tom Cruise, as always. Haley Atwell, I love her character of Grace. I thought she was a great addition in Dead Reckoning Part 1. And I would like to see more of her. So if they do continue Mission, even Tom Cruise in a smaller capacity, I'd like to see Grace become part of that team, become a bigger character. Maybe even a secondary lead to another male character, and they could have two leads, a male and a female lead would be pretty cool. Change it up a little bit. Simon Pegg is probably in top form here in the franchise. I thought he had some good moments. He had some funny moments, but had some really good emotional moments. Ving Rhames, he's not in the movie a lot, but what he is given here is very good, and he has one of the most memorable monologues in the whole franchise that I truly love, and creates a very special moment to make the franchise feel full circle. Issei Morales as the villain. Gabriel definitely is far and away definitely not the best villain in this franchise. I mean, we've gotten so many great villains between Davian and Mission 3. Even the villain in Mission 1's not really a villain, but John Voight being the villain in Mission 1 is also very good. And then we had the great arc of Rogue Nation and Fallout, where we had the Syndicate and Ilsa and the leader of the Syndicate. The name's escaping me. Sorry. But we had great villains, and Gabriel might actually be the weakest villain in the series, but to me, the entity really is the real villain in this film. So Gabriel's just kind of like the one that's there while the entity is the real villain. But Gabriel, he had a stronger presence in Part 1. I would have liked to have seen his history with Ethan explained more, especially the stuff with him, and I think it was Ethan's old girlfriend that was killed. I think that's who she was, and why she was killed by Gabriel, and what led him to becoming part of the IMF. Christopher McQuarrie said they kind of dropped that plot point. They filmed it and everything. I would like to see that, but it's not crucial. I think that Gabriel could have been expanded on more. And in Part 2, after he's in the first half hour, he disappears until the final act, essentially. So to me, he's just kind of like the back burner villain here. So, but Issei Morales, it feels like people have said he feels like a cartoonish kind of villain, and I guess in a way he kind of does with the way he chuckles and says his lines. But I think it works because I think he likes taunting Ethan, so it for me it works. And then Angela Bassett's fantastic as the president, and like I said to Tillman, going by last name, Tillman from Severance, he steals the movie in his sequences that he's in. He shares the screen with Tom Cruise in the submarine for those 10 minutes or whatever. And he's just witty, funny, great lines. I think just in 10 minutes, he steals those 10 minutes. So I really enjoyed that. And then we get other characters too that are also really good. On the whole, great performances, great action, a great finishing chapter to the Mission Impossible saga. And I think if you really are a almost 30-year plus fan of this franchise like I am, you are going to enjoy this final chapter, and you're going to see it as a very fitting ending to the entire 8-movie series. So, in conclusion, I give Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
I need you to trust me. One last time.
A 9 out of 10. Okay, so it saddens me for the last time to really be talking about Mission Impossible, because I feel like this might, in fact, be the last time I get to discuss this franchise unless I do a retrospective. I really have enjoyed this franchise. This franchise actually has meant a lot to me, for the reasons I said earlier, that Tom Cruise really has given me a lot of film knowledge. And this franchise really has been a big piece of my filmmaking life, too. So, seeing this franchise potentially come to an end saddens me a bit. But I am entirely satisfied with what we got with The Final Reckoning. And it's not often you can say you have 8 great movies in a franchise. I know people will say Mission Impossible 2 is, and I enjoy Mission Impossible 2 as well. So I think, to me, these are 8 great movies in the franchise. I don't think there's a bad movie out of the 8. And I think they're all fully enjoyable. So I just want to say this. Thank you, Tom Cruise, from the bottom of my heart, for creating a truly great franchise and being someone to look up to in the movie industry. Because you are a big part of why I like to do what I do and why I love movies so much. So thank you so much for that. I greatly appreciate it. But definitely check Mission out on the biggest screen possible if you can. Whether it's a Dolby Theater or IMAX or 4DX, ScreenX, Cinemark XD, check it out. You will not be disappointed. And who knows, if we continue to get the movie to make money, we might get a Mission 9 after all. That's my hope. But if not, I am completely satisfied with this being the ending of the franchise. So, I told you it'd be a lengthy review. I wanted to make sure I gave it its justice, gave it its due, and that I really talked about everything I wanted to talk about with it and really give you my full insight. So coming up in a few days, I'll be doing my full review video for Karate Kid Legends. As you know from my instant reaction, I really enjoyed that film. Being a Karate Kid and Cobra Kai fan that I am, I found myself enjoying that film quite a bit. So I'll be on the lookout for that. I'll give you my full details on what I liked about it, what I loved about it, and what some things that I thought could have been better in it. So check that out in a few days or so, and I'll let you know what I think on that. Coming up next week, I'm going to be checking out Ballerina, the John Wick spinoff. Look out for my instant reaction for that, and then full review soon after that as well. And we got a lot of stuff coming out, too. In a little over 3 weeks, we got Jurassic World Rebirth, which I'm excited for. Huge Jurassic Park fan. I mean, Jurassic Park literally was the first movie I ever saw in the theater as a kid in '93. I was 4. So that movie always holds a special place in my heart, and so does that franchise. So I'm looking forward to that, especially since Scarlett Johansson's joining the franchise. We've also got 28 Weeks Later coming out at the end of the month, which I am really excited for. Been waiting for that for a very long time, so I'm glad Danny Boyle finally has created a next chapter for that. And then on the 16th, I will be seeing an early screening of F1 with Brad Pitt. So I'm really excited for that because we're getting that from the director of Top Gun Maverick. So can't go wrong with that, right? He's made some pretty good films between Tron Legacy and then Top Gun Maverick. So I'm excited for that too. So a lot of stuff coming up. And then next month is Superman as well. So shot in my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. So a lot of good stuff coming up. Please follow, like, subscribe at We Are The Movie Guys on all 3 of those on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Really want to get the follower count up. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button on all 3. And please follow. I want to continue this channel to grow it and give you guys more reviews. If we grow the channel, I can get more reviews out, more content, and give you my insights into upcoming films and even some retro reviews if you'd like to see them as well. So again, thank you for joining me on this review of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. and I will see you on my next review, full review of Karate Kid Legends. See you, everybody.